Right, well, good morning and welcome to you all, and thank you all for making the effort to join us for our first actual AGM for the past 2 years. I promise you this, I'm not intending to read out my boring chairman's report that you've already got a copy of, so you can relax. What I do want to do is to just sing a bit of praise to those of you that made the effort on this, the first really cold weekend of the winter, and hope that by making this AGM a little bit different from others, that it provides a more sociable way forward for the future. Let us all now keep our fingers crossed and hope that the latest Omicron variant of COVID doesn't wreck the hard work that your committee has been putting in organising the events calendar for 2022. The pink peril is on the front table if you haven't got one, and that's the latest. You will have seen some discussion documents on next year's calendar up to date, but that's the latest one, and quite a bit of hard work's gone in to that, getting it as finished as we can. It's been a bit more challenging. Anyway, that's all that I want to say at the moment, and I'm now on to apologies for absence. And I've got a few here, and Austin, you've got a few as well.
I've got a few as well. I've got John Clark, Ian Isles, Diana Calvert, Ray Ruffles, Joe Ruffles, Dave Smith, Jerry Edwards, Roy Baker, Andrew Mitchell, Alex Lemon, Philip Bain-Powell, Rosemary Bain-Powell. Do you have anybody else?
Mitchell?
Andrew Mitchell, I've gone, yes.
Right, okay, fine. So yes, John Bennett is not with us. He's singing in church at the moment.
Yeah, I don't have John Bennett.
Alex Lemon?
Yeah, I've got Alex.
Yeah, and John Clark you've got. Yes, no, that's it, fine. We seem to agree. Right.
That's quite...
That's an achievement, isn't it? Right, okay. Then let's...
I've got that.
You got that?
I've got Derek's.
Fine, okay, right. Well, let's press on in that case then. And item 3 on the agenda you will see is a welcome from the President. And you will, if you want to be able to have a chat to Derek, see him a little later, but he's not going to, we decided, make this staircase very easily. And so what he agreed to do in the end was to produce it in written form for one of us to read out to you. And then if you wanted to see him later, he will be dining with the rest of us in the dining room downstairs, so that's your opportunity. So the welcome from the President, then.
I am now Derek. Firstly, my thanks to Chris Lee, who so very ably stepped into my shoes as chairman over 2 years ago and has held the fort of the centre during totally unexpected and unprecedented times. I must also acknowledge the support he's received from the committee members, in particular Austin, whoever he is, as Secretary Extraordinaire, and John Morgan, for doggedly grappling with COVID restrictions to enable some events to take place. Finally, I'm sure you will join me in welcoming Ting Morris as our new chairman. I better say new chairman-elect at this stage, and wish him well in his new role.
Good. Okay, I think somewhere, even if it's only electronic, I always like paper everything. You've got the minutes of the previous AGM, which was held on a Saturday, you may remember, 30th of January, on Zoom. It wasn't a real AGM, was it? Well, not like we know and love. So somewhere you've got a copy of that, or you've got it to access from your phone.
Thank you, John.
Right, okay. Well, basically what I'm wanting for you to do is to give me your approval, or give Austin your approval for those minutes if you feel so inclined. Has anyone not seen the minutes that would like to see them before I ask you that question? In which case, what I need is a show of hands to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was the Zoom meeting of last year's AGM. Earlier this year, in fact. Okay, those in favour of the minutes?
Any against? I thought that was Tim for a second. Any abstentions?
You seem to have done another good job there, Austin.
Well, they know damn well if they say no, they don't get a secretary.
Ah, right. That's a threat, isn't it? Okay. Right. Matters arising from the minutes previously notified to the Secretary. Now, I don't believe there have been any, have there?
Certainly nothing being notified. Is there anything burning? Good.
Any other matters arising from the minutes, can I ask now, that you've seen since that you want to raise as an issue? We're very democratic about these things. No, in which case I'll go on to my report now. That's not, again, a rerun of what I've just said. And it's not, of course, what I've written down either. I won't bore you with that. You should by now have all received a copy of my formal report, but it would be quite wrong if I failed to mention in passing our extremely valued and long-standing NATA leader in the shape of Graham White, who passed away earlier this year. A true gentleman, and it's probably significant that it's proving quite difficult to find another member in the Tunbridge Well area to take his place. But he does in fact leave a considerable hole geographically in the spread of our NATAs in passing away. I'd also like to point out that in the course of the last few weeks, 2 NATAs in the Kent area have decided to physically move from one place to another. Ian Russell, who's at the back somewhere, yes, waving his hand, is moving from the George at Trosley, and that's the correct pronunciation of it, to the Rising Sun at Forkham Green, which is hidden behind Brands Hatch, is it? Right, okay. A bit more of a could be an orienteering issue, that as well. Getting there. Same day, same time and everything. Yep. And Will Opie, who's at the back, sitting next to him, waving his hand around, is moving from the Plough at Salisfield Green to the Deering Arms at Pluckley, which is the most haunted pub anywhere, I think, isn't it? It's probably haunted by old car club members now. But finally, before I get on, I'd like to pay a tribute to the exceptionally creative bunch of Wander and Natter leaders that we have in the South East, who've coped remarkably well with the transition from virtual to actual events in recent weeks. Without naming any names, I would finally like to commend the whole committee to you for their dedication, patience and for their support during a period of upheaval that we could never ever in our wildest dreams have dreamt of. So my thanks go to the committee, and I commend them to you because they've done a remarkable job. So, on now to our new Treasurer, Ron Kemp, for his interim accounts and Treasurer's report. Ron.
Thank you very much. You probably can see, if you turn in your song sheet to page AGM number 5, really all I'm going to say, because as you're probably aware, the MG Car Club and its various parts, the actual financial year finishes on the 31st of December. Therefore, we're not at that point yet, so I can't show any completed report to you. But what I have done is done an interim report, which is shown on that page. And I can tell you that since I took over from Tony in April, May-ish this year, the figure in the bank we have is 8166, which is showing a small surplus of £140 or so. That doesn't include regalia and rosettes. They're not included in that figure. The 3 events we held this year all made a surplus for the club. Drive It Day, £146, Spring Run to Lennersley, £300, and Lullingstone most recently £250 in the kitty. Administrative, I can't even say it, expenses. We recently had a suggestion from one or two NATA leaders that some kind of flag or table item would be quite useful to have at the various natters. So Austin and I had a little think, and we've come up with these flags, as you can see on the table here. So we've purchased 20 of these, one each for the natters and the wanderers groups. I have the bulk of them in my little bag here, so if you know a natter leader or an admin leader who doesn't have one at the moment, please come and take them from me, otherwise I'll be taking them home. They were £273 each, so about £12-13 ago, which I thought was quite a reasonable price. There was a permit for the cancelled autumn Naviscat, which John and I have arranged that will be transferred to the spring Naviscat or some event next year. And there were sundry expenses of £61 for various trophies that we've just recently purchased. That is the sum really of my interim report, unless anybody has any questions on it or anything else. Good.
Yes, I'm happy to accept questions now. A bit more difficult on Zoom, wasn't it? But
I have a little question. I was just going to make a comment on the little table flakes that we used ours at our last national meeting, and we had a guy turn up who we spoke to at Luddingston, but had never been to a natter before, and it was good because he found us in the pub with our little flags up, and he knew who to speak to.
Excellent.
excellent, yes, really good.
Happy with that.
Good.
Okay, thank you then. In which case then, thank you very much for that, Ron. And on now to Austin and the Secretaries' Report.
Well,
Which again, you've got a copy of.
Fortunately, you've got it all, and with a bit of luck, you might even have read it. And I don't intend to comment on it except for one thing, and that is in relationship to the man sitting on my left, our chairman, who, as you know, is standing down.
Sitting down.
He's sitting down to stand down, or he's standing down to sit. I'm not too sure. Anyway, he is doing that. And I think it is fair to say that it's been a busy year, and also fair to say that your secretary would not have survived through this year without Chris virtually holding his hand and calming me down from time to time when I got a bit aerated. As some of you know, I do get a bit aerated from time to time. So, Chris, a formal thank you for not only being chairman, but for looking after your secretary. Thank you.
Thank you too.
I'll take questions. Don't promise to answer, but I'll take questions. Yes.
Firstly, in your report, you mentioned the Zoom meetings between natter leaders and wanderers and committee members, and I want to fully endorse that. I think it's a very positive thing to come out of the lockdown. But I have one other query, which is that the South East Centre email generic addresses that have been given to people like myself, what are we supposed to use them for?
Now, this is the point at which your secretary is going to duck. He is going to hand over to the webmaster, Tim, who is sitting there. And at the moment, the webmaster is Tim.
Yeah, the intention really is for a public-facing thing, so if you want to give out email addresses to anyone on a card or something, you can use a generic address. Right. And all they are, they're called forwarders, so it will just forward to your actual email address.
I see, and they don't know that.
They won't know that. So if you're giving a card out, you're not giving your personal email address to anyone. It's just a generic.
If I don't like the look of someone, I give them
if someone dodgy is asking for it, like just say it's whatever it is at mgccse.co.uk. Okay. And it's kind of a little bit of anonymity, something like that.
Anonymising?
One of those. Yeah. So you can be anonymous. Really.
Anonymous, yes.
Yeah. But if they email you on it, and you reply, you'll be replying from your own email address.
So they'll see that then.
So they'll see it then.
So you don't reply. Very rude. Thank you.
Tim, I think you've made one of our wander leaders very happy. Right.
Can I just endorse what Richard has said? I think the start-up of the Natter and Wanderer leaders meetings has been probably the one thing that has been positive that has come out of COVID.
Yes, I echo that. Yes, there's not much good that's come out of COVID, but the use of Zoom for many of us has been. And the most creative instance we've ever seen of that, I think, has been Tim with his virtual rally where you could travel back in time as well. Astonishing. However, I digress. On to John Morgan with the Competition Secretaries Report. And again, you've got a copy of this somewhere. John, would you like to say a few words?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add, right, okay, that's fine. Any questions for John at all as Competition Secretary? Because obviously you know that our plan for next year is to increase. We're getting back to how things used to be in the MG Car Club. There used to be a lot more competition going on, and we're heading in that direction now. So now is your chance to speak to John directly if you want any information about that. No?
I will be promoting shortly the things we've planned for next year.
Right. Okay. In which case then, on to the next item. Thanks for your report, John. That says it like it is. And the Events Secretary, now, I think you probably got an apology from Andrew. So the Events Secretary's report, you've got in writing.
I did say I'd take any questions from you on Andrew's behalf, if there are any. I'm delighted about that because I'm fairly certain I couldn't answer them. But that's good, thank you.
Good. Well, that's basically about the year past. Of course, we're dealing with the year to come in item 15 of the agenda. Okay, right. In which case, on to our safety fast scribes. Now, today William Opie is holding the fort, one of his many hats for the car club, and he's both a safety fast scribe and a newsletter editor. The little bit that you get in Safety Fast every day is what he creates with the help of Ray Ruffles. And the email newsletter, if you don't receive a copy of the email newsletter, speak to William or to one of the rest of us, because it's accessible by all of you, and you should be getting and reading a copy at the moment. So, William, Safety Fast and newsletter report, you've produced an illustrated article for us.
Yes, there's a brief report there, and please everybody keep sending in articles. At this time of year there's not many events to report on, so more input, interesting articles, even things that are not necessarily tied to just MG. I mean, I think Austin did a nice article on the visit to the Morgan factory, which was I thought was very interesting and slightly different. So it's good to have more input. Items for sale as well, we've got room for that. So keep sending it in. And bear in mind, anything for Safety Fast, it's always a bit of a challenge with Safety Fast, getting the articles and the photographs in. We try and do that. I'm glad to report that they did put in a proper obituary for Graham White in last month's Safety Fast, having slightly messed up the month before. But we'll just keep sending things into the scribes. That'd be great.
Good. And if any of you are not currently getting the email newsletter, please make it known to either myself or to William today, and we'll make sure that you're included. We want everyone to be able to get that. Okay, and for the very first time ever, we have an archive and history report, which again you've got a copy of, from John Davis. New development for us, this. John, would you like to say a few words about that?
Well, I don't think I can really add an awful lot to what we said here, other than the fact that it does seem it's a good idea that I think possibly Austin originally put forward. One of the most interesting aspects, of course, at the moment, the trophies that seem to be appearing one way or another. We've got the Charisma Cup, which must have got a very interesting history, which I actually brought along today. It's well worth more than what we paid for it, even though somebody said we probably bought our own trophy back. That's the way of the world. Unfortunately, of course, in the past, trophies were issued to various members of the ward. In some cases where that person died within the year that they held it, obviously the trophy got wrapped up in the person's estate, and of course people didn't necessarily appreciate that it was effectively our or main club's property. We're marking all our trophies on the basis of being issued for the future with a sticker which indicates that in the event of, we're not saying the person died, but in the event of there being the main club can be contacted with a view to getting the trophy back. John Morgan came up with a very interesting item a while ago, which shows a friend of his, and indeed a South East member from a good few years back, 1972, half a lifetime away there, as the runner-up in Ranmore Trophy. Now, that was a car club event. We are trying to find out a little bit more about it. I have asked one or two people, but so far we can't really find any great detail of it. I've also mentioned on the opposite side of my notes the banana trophy. Now, our eldest son, by sheer chance, found a copy of the MG magazine in a friend of his garage when he was turfing out and retrieving an Elvis car, that actually refers to this trophy, obviously long before we ever had it, and I did actually do a brief article in the newsletter, but they're quite a fascinating area. I do hope that we can, as COVID restrictions are released, now of course we may be facing another lot, get some face-to-face dialogue with some of our older members in order that we can record this in some shape or form. I think one or two people have already, prior to Gwen and myself getting involved in this direction, provided certain information. If we contact you, we're very appreciative of your thoughts way back, because after all, the club is based on history, certainly to people like ourselves. And hopefully, as we're just talking to Linda and Sue, we can generate some interest with younger people. And again, coming back to John Wilson's best efforts as far as the competition side is concerned, I would thought that that's something we would maybe like to consider, where we can drive in a slightly different manner along the road, but safely. That's about all I can say at the moment.
Okay, thank you, John. Yes, it's a new venture, this. It was prompted, I think, originally by the desire to keep tabs on our property, and that's something that I can assure you that the committee is doing now, and John looking after on our behalf. So that's just a small part of it. Many of you have got memberships in the car club that go back many, many years, and are probably the repository of information that we need to record for future use. So if you have anything like that that you think that we could be interested in, you'd be surprised, then please contact John Davis or one of the rest of us, and we'll make sure that the information is stored safely then for future use. Okay.
Chris? Just a note to add to that, because I collected a lot of information from members for the 80th anniversary. A lot of historic pictures, Alan Scott racing at Brands Hatch, and all sorts of things. And I've now copied that to both Austin and Tim, but John at the moment hasn't got a copy. And one thought is that when John's a little bit more developing of this, we'll actually have a historical section on the website. So it's more open to members generally to access.
And the newsletter.
And the history behind the centre.
Yes, if I can reinforce that, Certainly William and Ray are keen on getting hold of as many interesting photographs as possible for use with their publications, but for us, any old photographs that you might have that you think are, well, it's not this year's, so it's a bit out of date, please pass them on to John for our archives, because they will be valuable in the future. We don't intend this club finishing next year. It will go on, and the new people who will be members in 10 years' time will not have a clue what you've been doing at all unless we tell them. Okay, thank you. Right, thanks for that, John. And on to the Webmasters Report now, which is an important development for us in the last couple of years. Tim.
Okay, so South East Centre Online. Now, I have seen the written reports. I'm just going to very briefly summarise the main points in there. So these are all the various things we've got online, social media, World Wide Web, the MailChimp newsletter. So various ways that we communicate with all our members, and that's quite an important part of the MD Car Club South East, I think. So just to run through the main ones we've got here. This is the online World Wide Web. That's the Earl. Obviously, you've all seen the website, I hope. Yeah? Yeah. There it is. That's what it looks like. It's not like other websites that you may see, in that the first front page you see is all the latest information on it. So you don't have to look at it elsewhere, you come straight in on that. That was a deliberate idea. And views per year since they started in 2017. You can see there a little graph. Whoop. So 2018 was a good year when it first started, dropped down 2019, up again in 20, and even higher in 21. And by the time we finish the year, that will be the highest by the looks. If you look at that website views per month, the blue line is this year, and the orange line is last year. So you'll see a bit of an issue there, and that you would have expected August to be about up here as well on views. There was a problem with the website, and a lot of the views weren't recorded. So it's a slightly false figure because it should be higher for this year already, and should be above the 2018 figure already. So we do get issues sometimes on it, we try and sort out. Social media, if we turn to that, we've got 2 Facebook pages. We've got the main MG Car Club South East one, which is the public facing one, so anyone can see that and see what's posted. It's controlled by the club, so the only posts people can see are ones that we put on, but people can comment on those posts. The chat group is a more informal one, and anyone can post on that, but you have to be a member to actually get into that section to post. And there's a couple of questions we ask before people are allowed in there. Stats wise, Facebook main page followers this year started off the year about 152. We're finishing in November on 266. So it's risen quite a lot during the year. About 100 more people have liked or followed the page. So that's promising. Still quite a, compared to the membership of 1,472. You know, it's still a bit small really, but it's growing. Facebook chat group, pretty level most of the year. Then the July newsletter went out and it jumped a bit when more people were coming on there. But since then it stayed, again, relatively static at a relatively low number. There's still 126 people on there. You can post what you like, those 126 people. It's obviously something to do with MGs. Moving on to the other social media, Instagram, got an Instagram page. Started to update that one a little bit more now, discovered how to put pictures on it from my laptop rather than my mobile phone. So we started to put a few more things on there now, and that's grown quite a lot during the year. This is the May figure. For some reason I didn't have them going back further, but up to 276 followers on there now. So that's growing quite a lot. And Instagram is one of the growth areas, I think, for social media as a whole. Twitter, yeah, bumbling along. See the stats there. It's up and down. We're running about 70 people on there, so not a lot of our members are using Twitter. That's telling us. So most people on Facebook, followed by Instagram, and Twitter coming in a second, third, really. But we'll still keep on it, and you never know. It's a way of communicating with people anyway. Moving on to the emails, we've already mentioned that with William and Ray. They create the newsletter. This is it inside of MailChimp, what Chris was referring to. A little monkey friend. It's a mailing list provider. So you create the email within MailChimp and then you put a mailing list in it and it automatically sends it out to the members. And it gives us a lot of stats as well. This is a statistical page on the October newsletter showing how many opens it got, how many people it went to. So that's just a summary, and you can dig deeper into that to find out what's going on with the newsletter. And there we go. There's a little comparison of opens on the two newsletters that have gone out on that, July and October. And you can see how many it went out to in the blue, how many people opened it, and how many was sent, how many opened it, and how many actually read the newsletter by clicking on the link that's in it. That was a bit of a surprise, but it was as low as that. You're only looking, under 400 people, so 300 and something people there are looking at it.
Tim, isn't that a bit disappointing? Do his work.
It's something we've got.
Look at it.
It is. It's something we've not been able to measure before. So when we did measure it and we got the July figure, we thought, that was a bit disappointing that many people are doing it. You could look at it another way and say, well, that many people actually opened it and got up to the first stage, but they didn't click through to the newsletter itself. But even that's half the membership. Probably a fifth of the membership there didn't even open it, didn't even look at it. But that's probably the same, because you all get these things from clubs and groups and societies. And how many of you actually click on each one and then click the links?
Put an encouragement and safety fast for people to use.
That's where we're moving on to. We try and we keep pushing it. We saw the little jump there when the July newsletter went out for the chat group Facebook page. So it does work. So we've just got to keep plugging at it, I think, and hope more people are going to do it. But just to summarise the member communications, and I think the centre is actually probably one of the best at communicating with its members. And there's lots of different ways, as we can see there, running all the way through. There's 10 different ways that we communicate with our members. And they can communicate back to us as well, running right down to personal contact. You can phone us up in the committee or email us and whatever. So I put it in the MG Car Club site as well, as that's another way the main club communicates with the members, and the Southeast office to get all those. The only one that we can guarantee people actually get is the Safety Fast card, and that is posted out. It's the only printed medium we have on a regular basis. That goes out monthly to every member in the Southeast.
I don't know how many people read it.
No, does it just come in the letter? It's like the emails, isn't it? Does it come in the letterbox? Oh yeah. In the bin or in a pile of magazines on the side, you don't know. You don't get any stats on that, can you? But we're hoping to improve some of those social media stats. The website views are pretty healthy. We're looking probably at 12,000 views this year. So that's actually quite good. So I'm quite pleased with that. And I think that was it for me. Thank you very much.
Good. Well, thank you, Jim. John Morgan.
Can I just add, there's obviously some reluctance within the centre to use things like Facebook. But for instance, just to give you a comparison, I'm also in the MG Octagon Car Club, which obviously is for pre-56 cars. We do advertise all our events for pre-56 Ogden Car Club, but they've got a Facebook page which has got something like 3,000 members. I think it goes worldwide. You get fascinating posts on there from all over Europe, and I put some pictures on the chat page and on their page for the trial. Some interesting pictures of our cars going up on the trial. After 3 days, I think, on South East Centre page, it had 5 likes. Within 24 hours on the Octagon Car Club, it had something like 150. Just shows you, and the people that are watching the Octagon Car Club, and by doing the likes, it just spreads it around. And I think, Tim has made sure these sites are totally secure, so there is no risk by being connected with those sites, and that is getting the wider publicity out beyond membership. Tim, that if you like things and share things, it goes beyond the car club boundary. So it's getting the message of what we are doing out to a wider audience, and I think that's why it's important.
John, you make a very good point there, if I may say so, and that is this, that clearly demographics have got a part to play in this. The age of, the average age of MG Car Club South East membership is fairly high, and that with that obviously comes in many cases a fear of using the internet.
I would add to, I don't suppose the Octagon Car Club age group is much different.
No, it wouldn't be, would it? No.
No disrespect, we can't spring chickens in the Octagon Club.
I think it's still fairly new for the MG Car Club South East, so I think it will grow.
Yeah.
I also run the Brooklands membership one, and we've got approaching 3,000 people on that are following the page. But it's taken, 8-9 years to get to that many people with our membership, and our membership is much bigger than the Car Club South East. We're looking at 6,000 memberships there, and it's taken that long to get it up to just under 3,000 people looking at it. But it's good because when people do like it, and John's right, you have to, when you see a post, like it, share it, comment on it. That all improves your ratings in search engines and all that type of thing, so it spreads it out. There was an example on one of our posts we did on the Brooklands members site, where it got shared onto another site. It was about a picture of a Rover SD1 with a big aircraft engine in it. So, a bit unusual, but people started to share it, and it got to something like 250,000 shares and views on that particular post. So it can take off just suddenly.
Tim, on MailChimp that you use, those that don't or get to the first page of the newsletter but don't open it, if you sent it out a few weeks later again, is it clever enough to reach those people that looked at it but didn't open it and suggest, we looked at this, but just try and remind them? I mean, people will lose things. They'll lose things in spam.
Possibly, I don't know. I haven't looked at that aspect, so I don't know. But maybe we can get the stats because we know who doesn't look at it.
I think some of the issue is that we all get so many emails, but unless you physically open it there and then,
you don't know
it drops down the inbox.
It drops down the list. I agree.
And straight away, it's off the radar.
Yeah.
We don't want to inundate people, but the trouble is the newsletter actually takes a lot of time to do to try and do the layout. I mean, it's a few weeks' work every time, particularly for amateurs when we're not that good at moving pictures and everything.
But even so, you're still getting out to over 300 members that are looking at it.
Yes,
so
I know, that's the good
it's still worthwhile doing because.
No, I'm not saying we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile doing. But that will grow.
Maybe Natalie could check with Natters who does and who doesn't get the newsletter.
I've always found with these social media things. MGF register was the same, you just got to keep plugging at it and then it will grow.
I always send out, when the one's been produced, when I do my Natter email, I always send out a copy of that newsletter because it does remind members, even if they've had it, it's there.
Sharp on the stats, would it?
It wouldn't come in the stats.
No, that's true. Yeah, and we send out copies as well to people.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
We perhaps need a lead to sort of promote that. We need to look at it and open it and what's in it and get people to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make that one.
So where we are in a year's time.
Yeah, set a successful.
Yeah, we've only done 2 newsletters so far, so it's not. It's a bit difficult to say.
Yes, exactly. Only 2 on membership.
Well, I'm aware as current chairman that many Natter and Wonder leaders do make a big effort to make sure that things like the email newsletter are spread amongst their membership. And I think we've got to recognise that we're very fortunate that we've got someone like Tim who used to do this for a living at Brooklands, who recently retired and now helping us instead. And no greater expertise than his in this room, that I'm sure. So I look forward to more of the same. And this could be a growth for us, this. When you think about the amount of information that you can get doing things this way, if we didn't get involved in this, we would lag behind significantly. So, thank you very much indeed, Tim, for all the hard work. And I look forward to seeing even more of it in future. Okay, other reports Austin has written as item 14 on the agenda. Are there any other reports that I'm not aware of or we're not aware of?
In which, pleased to know, Mr. Chairman, there are none.
Good. In that case, then, we'll be going straight across to the draft programme for 2022. Now, if you haven't got a copy of the Pink Peril on the front table there, then there are plenty of copies to go around because I printed off 70 of them yesterday, so you can take one for your friend as well. Please feel free. This particular programme has gone through a number of gestations. It was originally marked up as a discussion document and has been flying backwards and forwards around the committee and various leaders from time to time in recent months. The plan is to be ahead of the game slightly and to get, I have to acknowledge, as Tim does, that we have a high proportion of our membership in the club that do not use emails. They don't have an email address. And the only way we can communicate with those people are via a small little thing in Safety Fast that's this big, or something that's printed that goes in Safety Fast. Many of our membership can only be reached in that way unless it's personal contact. And it's something like nationally, a third of the membership doesn't have an email address. So this is crucial. This is crucial in 2 ways. It's crucial for us, for our information, so we can plan to join in with things in the following year. But it's also an important recruitment tool as well. So a copy of this will go in with the past copies of Safety Fast and what have you, and the enrolment forms. To each of the MG motor franchises that we've become involved in the last year. So that's an important development for us. We will reach the very corners of our membership by doing that. Now, this is, when you look at the pink document, you'll see that it is a provisional calendar for next year. It is subject to change. And we may have change forced upon us by venues if there are any COVID developments that we're not yet aware of. I've got to tell you that having been involved in this one this year, that it's been a more difficult nut to crack because many of the venues that we've traditionally used or would traditionally be available for us are not operating now in the same way. They're either restricting numbers, they've been paying attention to other sources that say old cars are not environmentally friendly and not allowing us in the gate. and so on. So what you see isn't accidental. It's been contrived very carefully by quite a few members of the committee to create something that is we've taken great care to note the makeup of our existing membership. We've also been keen to provide events of all for all tastes and ages, with a nod to the future as well. And we've provided different competitive events this year, something that our club's always been known for in the past. We've striven to use locations in all the corners of the southeast, with the notable exception of London. And we've also striven to create a really varied range of runs and spectacles for you this next year. More could well be added. So what we're hoping to do is going to print at some time soon, COVID permitting. The very fact that our delayed Battle of Britain run is going to take place on April the 1st is something that I welcome. But please bear in mind, this isn't an April Fool joke. You can, if you want to, wear your own handlebar moustaches that day. Probably a lot of you will.
Chris, it's the 1st of May.
1st of May, is it?
Yes.
Oh, right. In that case, ignore that then. Don't wear your handlebar moustaches. That's all.
Close, Mr. Chairman, close.
Well, I got away with it. You probably don't realise, but I got away with one April Fool when John Morgan phoned me to find out why I was sitting in my back garden holding a steering wheel that wasn't attached to anything and wanted to know where the Mgccse certificate was for it. So that worked. At least one person noticed it. Please do get yourself involved. And you'll notice that in some cases there's not a name against the contact. That's not an accident. If you want to be involved in it, come and let John or Austin or Andrew or myself know, and we can do something about it. We're always keen to get volunteers. Any questions about the programme for next year, can I ask? You've had a quick chance to look through it. Jenny.
But in the past, in Safety Fast Notes, we have put like a little box with just the date and the event, so that it kind of catches your eye without having to necessarily read all the text. Some people don't bother to read, but like, say, Abingdon Centre or any of the other centres could just see a date and say, oh, that looks interesting, and then they can read about it later or look it up or whatever. It's just kind of a bit of an eye-catcher.
Yes, I'm sure that's something that William would automatically do anyway.
Well, we mentioned events obviously coming up every time we do Safety Fast.
Yeah, but it's
I
just
agree,
like
not in the separate.
with the date, perhaps in bold or something.
You like the format of
the only problem with Jenny with a box is it takes up more room.
I know, it takes up
and
space.
we're so limited on space. I mean, already we're losing photographs. We're not getting everything we want in. That's the only issue. Even when we have a heading, when Ray and I put a heading in, we then lose space.
I'm just talking about, say, the main spring event or a summer event, or, you know, not everything, but just the main event you want to publicise.
We can put in bold the heading and have a chat with Andy, see if we can highlight it. But no, I don't think any of the other areas do. But I'll double check. I agree to highlight it.
So certainly, making sure that events are correctly and well advertised is very important for us, and I'm sure William and Ray are both keen to acknowledge that and do the right thing there. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jenny. Yes, most important that.
Sometimes you might be talking about, say, an event in the next month or 2 months, and yet your summer event might be 3 months away, so you could actually get the date in early without actually writing all about it, you know?
Well, I think the committee's plan at the moment is for everyone to have one of those, not a pink peril, but a properly printed calendar in their hands, and that will be spread as widely as we can.
It's just that you get people sometimes coming like from Abingdon or Essex or those sort of places to our, you know,
yes,
in
indeed.
the past
Yes.
they travelled, you know.
We've always had that in the
now,
past, and I must say I've taken advantage of that too myself in the past.
you know, you do look at other centres around you, what they're doing.
Yes, very good point. Thank you, Jenny. Yes, David.
Richard. Sorry, Richard.
Close.
I appreciate this is provisional, and I appreciate all the hard work that's gone in by various members to get it together. But you know, I have to comment that of the 36 events, only 14 are organised by the MG Car Club South East. Of the remaining 22, 4 are Maidstone Motor Club and 3 are MG Owners Club. We are lacking traditional events that have attracted good support in the past. There's no spring, summer or autumn gathering. There's no chairman's run and there's no cream tea run. And those type of events do attract support because today wives are pretty critical in members attending. And whilst I appreciate the sporting background of the club, etc., the auto test, car trials type of thing tend to be only attractive to men, majority-wise. So I wonder if you could comment on that.
Well, I share your concerns with the type of events that we have traditionally had in recent years. We certainly need events which the ladies will be keen on joining us in. And I think it doesn't necessarily mean that if we're having competitive events that they're not incompatible, those things at all.
For Richard, what we try to do, Richard, is the trouble with things like the spring, autumn and summer gatherings in the past is they've been very much centred in one part of the centre, which creates issues of distance. People have got trouble. You yourself have raised concerns sometimes that, oh, it's too far away for me to come. What we're trying to do in this one is to put possibly more regional events in. For instance, that's why we've got the Windmills Run, which was so popular 2 or 3 years ago. That's why we've put in the Bluebell Railway Gathering. That's going to be like a mini summer gathering for those members that are in Surrey, Sussex, possibly West Kent. That's why we've got the autumn meeting in Belmont. The reason we're going in with Maidstone and Mgccse Agm.
Belmont, yes.
Sorry? No, Belmont is in Faversham.
Where is that?
Belmont House.
Was that Faversham, Kent? I mean,
Kent.
If you don't know it, you'd enjoy it. It's a smashing place.
But the reason we're in with Maidstone and Mgccse Car Club is because we don't have enough people who want to do an auto test or a trial, but we can go in with another club as an invited club, which means that there's opportunity then for a smallish group of people who want to take part.
Yes, I'm not being critical about trade
No,
at all.
just explain, Richard, why you're not seeing the
It's
traditional
just
ones
that
the
I
same.
fear there's a dearth of the type of event where you can have a nice day out with a picnic or buy refreshments and just sit around cars and chat and the wives can be present. There seems to be a dearth of that.
Yes, indeed. Right, well, I think probably my answer to that would be that many of those events are actually taking place. They're on the calendar already, just with different labels, not spring, summer, autumn, but it is something that I would always want the committee to bear in mind, personally, that we have to cater for the ladies. And you probably realise that there's been a slight discrepancy from listening to what Tim said about membership numbers and what I've written on that plan there, showing you where our membership actually is in the South East. Because I've quoted 1,820 members, and Tim, you quoted 1,470.
1468 it was on the last.
The difference is that with that particular figure, the ladies are missing off it. Those people that have joint membership, the MG Car Club has not been counting until now. I've made a big do about that with Abingdon, and they've promised that that will change in future, I'm pleased to say. But the ladies are a very important part of our activities and our membership. And so, yes, hopefully that's going to change. The attitude will, I'm sure, change now. Right, well, thank you. I'm going to have to move on fairly quickly now. As you can see, coffee's arrived, and Austin's looking a bit anxious now. We need to move on to elections, and this is where I finally get to pass over my job to someone that can do it far more competently in a much more modern way as well. So, the first election, of course, is we only have one proposal, I believe, for the election of our president, Derek Edwards. His role was ratified by Abingdon at a meeting that John Morgan and myself went to fairly recently. So it's got the approval of Abingdon, head office as it were. But I proposed that he remain as our president for another year. It's something that we have to do annually, this. And it was seconded by Austin. He's not with us at the moment, but he will be with us shortly. And he does like to attend all of the Zoom meetings that he can as well. He takes an active part in that still, with the help of his wife Anne. So could I just ask for a straight vote on that one, please? Those in favour of Derek remaining president? Those against? Any abstentions? Now, for the election of officers, I think this is where I have to stand down and hand over, because I don't think that... I don't know.
Not necessarily, but...
He does.
Do he? Does he?
I think I do.
Okay. Right, the next election then is for the chairman. Our current chairman is standing down. We have a proposal from me, seconded by Chris, for the new chairman. You've never met him before. His name is Tim Morris. And I ask for those in favour. I ask for those against. You are marked. And I ask for any abstentions. Tim, you are duly elected as our chairman. Would you like to come up and take the slot between your other two officers? And then, since the next election is for the secretary, perhaps you would like to conduct the election.
Well, okay.
Can we do a vote of thanks for Chris?
I was just about to do that. I haven't taken my seat yet.
I know. I can disappear.
Give him a chance.
Goodness me. Excellent. Yes, we will do a vote of thanks for Chris to be officially recorded, I think. Thank you. Excellent job. Has difficult circumstances as well, particularly in this last year, and done a splendid job in steering the South East through some murky and troubled waters, I think. So, excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, so let's move on. So the Secretary, Austin Banner, who I think is this chap here, and proposed by John Davis, seconded by me. And can we have a vote for Austin? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Looks like you're in again, Austin.
Oh dear.
It's a bit of a blow. We move on to Ron Kemp as Treasurer, proposed by Austin Banner, seconded by Chris Lee. So votes for Ron as a Treasurer. Yeah. Any against? What's that at the back?
I thought that
was going to be one there. Just scratching.
Any abstentions?
Abstentions? No.
Thank you. Can I just thank Tony for his work over the last 5 years, and also for the handover of that enormous great box of previous 7 years worth of files, which is now in my roof. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Ron, for taking over.
Hey, well done, Ron. Okay, election of committee members. We've got John Morgan, Andrew Mitchell, Diana Calvert, John Davis, Ray Ruffles, William Opie.
It's over the other side.
And on the back.
And on the back, there's some more. Alex Lemon, Gwen Davis and Ian Russell. How can I forget? So we're going to do those en masse. So votes for all those. Anyone against? Any abstentions? I think that's fantastic. Brilliant. I think everyone knows me, do they? Maybe. I thought I'd just introduce myself in case you don't, some of you. I have been in the South East Centre for 21 years. I think I joined in 2000 when I got my MGF, the middle car there, which I still have. And been on the MGF Register Committee since 2003, so including a batch of 5 years as chairman for that. So hopefully I'm qualified to take over as chairman of the South East with any luck. But there are some of my MGs in the past there. And that is my current little collection there, ZR, BGTLE and my famous F. And there's some of the jobs that I do for the car club and also Brooklands members, because I am actually still involved in Brooklands members in a voluntary capacity, doing mainly their social media, talks team, podcasts and radio show that I do for them, and all the various other things. There's quite a lot there. So am I skilled in them all? Maybe it's a case of jack of all trades. I don't know, which is why I rely on an excellent committee to do most of the work, and hopefully that's going to continue. There we are, there's my F at Brooklands. And as we go forward into the next year and beyond, we'll be looking mainly at things like this, the events. Again, Richard brought up the events for ladies, particularly we want to be looking at things like that. We also want to increase the motorsport side of the club, as traditionally Car Club South East has been a motorsport centre, and it's kind of dropped off a little bit, particularly in grassroots things. We've lost the auto tests, the Naviscats have gone down in our numbers, so we want to try and improve on those, and John's beavering away trying to get us particularly involved with the Maidstone and Mid-Kent Car Club, which is quite a good thing. So we're going to try and improve on that. And when I look at the history, I'm quite interested in the history, so John is going to play an important role in the next couple of years, I think, trying to pull together the history of the centre. And he's already spoken about that briefly today, and we've got this cup as an example of that. So again, John mentioned putting it on the website to be available to all. Maybe we could do a little printed booklet as well at some point once we get enough information together. But let's gather that information, so we want people to give that in. Support the natters and wanderers. They're the backbone of the club in the South East. They're the people that are organising things on the ground on a regular basis. So we want, as a committee, to give as much support as possible to those groups around the South East region. And regalia sales, I want to try and make regalia sales a little bit easier. Looking around, we do have a couple sporting their lovely South East Centre polo shirts, I think, and sweatshirts. And there's one at the back, but yeah, not too many, so we want to try and improve that. Perhaps we'll get it put online so that you can easily buy it. It just gets sent to you. So we're going to look at that. Equipment, we've already gone a little way. You can see these here today. So we want to try and support again the natters with equipment they might need. So we'll try and think about that. The online media, I've already given my little talk about that, so I won't dwell on that, but that will increase as time goes on. Possibly with a bit of video on a YouTube channel, could be another move there. And the main MG Car Club issues, of course. I've had a few of those this year, and I'm hoping we're going to get out the other side of all that, really, because we really need to concentrate on serving our members in the South East rather than getting embroiled in party politics. They're important because it's the main club, it does sit over us, So we want to keep an eye on it and pull them up, but John tells us to. So we'll keep trying to pull them up when they make mistakes, which they do. They've not been that transparent in what they've been doing, and that was one of the tickets they got elected on. So yeah, there are issues there, but we don't want to dwell too much on them because we've got to serve the people of the South East, and that's what we're here for. So that's my little introduction speech. So hopefully you'll know me a little bit better now after all that. Okay, any other business, I think, Mr. Secretary?
There's been nothing said to me for other business. Is there any other business?
Okay, we have located them. John's got them here, and I've got one here. And the first one we want to give out a special award for Mick Breer. Mick, come forward. Just to thank you for your work on the newsletter, sending it out. It's actually got quite a lot of text on here. It tells me all about it. In recognition of your IT skills regarding the distribution of the South East newsletter and email database. So that's all on that little plaque there. Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Can you just look this way? Thank you.
Thank you. And it's engraved. Just very quickly, being engraved means quite a lot to me, and I'll say quiet. I belong to another car club, many with 100 members, and I write their website. Now, I'm not a super duper competent website writer. I use one that's provided by my how can I put it? The people that supply the website, basically. But it comes out okay. A few years ago, in recognition of my incompetence, they agreed to give me an award, and it's a Man of the Year award, which isn't as grand as it sounds. I was duly given this award. Well, thank you, said I. Do I give it back to you to be engraved? Oh no, you have to have it engraved yourself. Okay, so I duly put it back in its box and took it home, and when I got it out I looked at it and I'm pondering, having this thing engraved or not, and I noticed there were no spaces left. So it still sits in a cupboard at home and they've never asked for it back, and I still produce the website as incompetently as I ever have done.
Okay, now our second one is for Tony, who's sitting right at the back of the room there, Tony Aitchison, and it's in recognition of your work as the treasurer for the MG Car Club South East Centre.
Thank you very much.
It's rather splendid, this one I have to say.
7 years, is that, Tony?
I guess 6, I think.
6 years, 6 or 7 years,
something like that.
It's a long time anyway, so there we go. Well done, Tony.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. And all the very best.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, I think that is bringing us to the end of this section before we get on to our speaker. We're going to have a cup of tea and some drizzle cake and all sorts of different things there by the look of it. But Austin's got a couple of little announcements just to make just before we close for the break. With a cup of tea and break.
Wouldn't be me if I didn't make a load of announcements, would it? Coffee and drizzle cake and